The scariest technology, which people are putting in their homes right now, has got to be this new wave of like viral indoor smart cameras. They're always on, they're always connected to the internet, and they're conveniently located right in your living room. Just a few privacy concerns about that. Obviously, the solution is just don't buy one. But I need it. I need to check on my bunny when I'm out of town. Look at her. If you also have somebody you need to monitor remotely, the Psync Genie S does a pretty good job of balancing that with the privacy concerns which you should have. But we're going to have to prove that for ourselves. Starting with the shape. When this thing is off, I immediately can tell that it's off. It's a cube now. Even if it wanted to spy on me, the camera is pointing at the ground. But that's just the physical layer. What about the digital one? Well, Psync claims that any footage captured will be stored locally on the device. Even with the fancy AI features turned on, things like motion tracking, object detection, object labeling, the amount of data that actually leaves the camera to go to a remote server somewhere should stay surprisingly minimal. Now, as far as I can tell, these privacy claims are in fact true. If that's all you needed to hear, well, the link to buy is down there. If not, then let's dig in a little deeper and see what we can learn about how these cameras actually work. Grab an old router, plug into computer, create local area network and route its requests through our PC's internet connection. Set up the Psync Genie S on that network. Install Wireshark. Start monitoring network activity on our local network. And with that, we can now spy on every network request our camera makes. Now, most of them are encrypted, so we can't just read them off, but we can look at things like the size, the protocol used, and the destination to try and figure out what's going on behind the scenes. Test number 1. What packets get sent while the camera is off? It should actually be slightly more than nothing. Obviously, we shouldn't be sending any video or audio, but we do want to maintain an active connection to some servers so that I can turn the camera on using my phone from anywhere in the world. And that is basically what we see. There are a few TCP and a few UDP channels which are kept alive by sending a few requests a minute, but they don't really send any amount of data across them. We can also see that most of Psync's infrastructure is running on AWS, mostly in the Kinesis video and IoT platforms. And the biggest chunks of data sent are actually part of TLS handshakes, which are essential for security anyway. No red flags here. Test number 2. The camera is on and recording, but I'm not currently watching a recording, and the AI features have all been turned off. Now remember, Psync claims that the full recording is going to be stored locally, which means there's no reason for this to be sending any more network requests than when it's in its off state. And looking at the data, that is more or less what happens. The average size and frequency of the TCP and UDP requests doesn't seem to change much from the completely off state. It might go up a little bit, but well within the margin I'm willing to forgive. Now for contrast, let's see what it looks like when someone actually is spying on me. I'll open up the app and start watching me. Holy, look at that difference. Those are all UDP requests, which are used for audio and video streaming because they're allowed to be dropped, unlike TCP requests. So I can be pretty sure that that's not what was happening earlier, and my recordings are indeed stored fully offline. Finally, let's turn on all of the smart features. We got automatic recordings, motion detection, motion tracking, object labeling, everything. Now this does use more bandwidth. Some of those things are too expensive to be done, in-house. Now we do see some extra traffic in the form of extra TCP requests, which are apparently dispatched to a peer-to-peer network, which does that processing. Really cool stuff. But it's still taking all of the reasonable precautions, and there's definitely no huge spike of UDP traffic that would indicate that it's sending any audio or video data. Now listen, I'm not a cybersecurity expert. This was my first time messing around with networking in quite a few years, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But for me, personally, this product passes the smell test of taking reasonable precautions with my data while still being very usable. So I will personally be using the Psync Genie camera next time I'm out on vacation. If you feel you have a legitimate need for one of these cameras, hey, the link's down there.